Hello everybody, and welcome back to Tiny Tiger Collective, a relatively new channel about planners, journals, fountain pens, stickers, and other stationery goodies that brighten our lives. I'm Helena. I'm a stationery lover who savors the moments where I get to put pen to paper in between a pretty hectic life being an academic full-time and a mum 24/7. In this video, I share the full collection of the planners and journals I've just begun using in 2025, otherwise known as my Techo kaigi. If you're new to the YouTube planner community, Techo kaigi is a Japanese phrase meaning notebook meeting. And it's a figurative term referring to an invitation and an opportunity to reflect on how you've been using planners and journals to organize and create more balance in your lives. You can reflect back on your experiences of the past year and think about how your system might be changed or refined in order to bring you more peace in the new year. This video extends my last one, where I reflect on the planners and journals that I kept over 2024 in more depth, and also shed a little bit light on my ongoing pursuit of planner peace in 2025. If you haven't watched that video, don't worry about rushing back. I'll offer a brief recap of the planners that I used in 2024 in order to provide a little bit of context. But before I begin, I just wanted to thank each and every one of you who have taken the time to watch my first ever video on this channel. It's meant so much to me to see the view counts ticking up and to see the really lovely, generous people who have taken the time to stop by and offer words of warm encouragement and support. I am really new to making a stationery channel. This is the second ever video I've filmed, and it is a lot harder than it looks for someone who has been a really active member of this community as a viewer and a commenter for the past 2.5 years. It's really actually quite surprised me how difficult it is flipping through your journals and talking. I never would have thought. And so I was quite nervous about sharing my first video. It has a lot of cringy moments, but I am so heartened by all of you who have expressed so much kindness and grace. All right, so I'm going to share with you first a brief recap of the journals that I have used in 2024. For the first 3 months of 2024, I finished off my first ever Hobonichi planner. Hobonichi is a company out of Japan that does these kind of daily planners in a range of different styles, formats, and sizes. This was the first ever Hobonichi planner I ever bought, and I bought this back in July 2023. And because I was midway through the year, I decided to purchase an April start book, which is one of the formats that they offer, because in Japan, the new school year starts in April. So it's quite popular for people to begin their new school term with a brand new planner. So that's why the April start is available. And that was perfect because it meant that I didn't have to start halfway through a book and waste the 6 months at the start. So the way that I used this Hobonichi A6 Techo original is as a baby book. You see, it's fairly compact, so it was, to me, less intimidating to begin a daily journaling habit while my child was still quite young and as my life was still turned upside down, and I wasn't sure some days how I was ever going to find time to shower, let alone sit down and spend 30 minutes journaling. But I was really glad that I took this leap. And what I found was that this book gave me so much support and joy to be able to carve out a little bit of time for myself maybe not always every day, but every 2 or 3 days, I might be able to have an hour to myself where I can dive into this book and catch up and backdate on any dates that I may have missed. And the way that I use this book is on the left-hand column where they list the hours of the day. I would write a little brief note to what my son got up to. So what time he woke up, what time he ate. This was around the time that my son was moving to solid foods. So I also kept records of what he ate and what foods he liked. If we had special events, I would write about it. And I would also sometimes have to write about in the middle of the night when he woke up. For example, if he was feeling sick or if he seemed to be going through a growth spurt, maybe waking up 2 more times than usual to have a bottle of milk. And it didn't end up being stressful or overwhelming as I feared at all. It actually ended up being an extremely grounding activity that helped me develop my confidence as a new mum. Now, as I moved into 2024 last year, what I thought was I'll give this book a little break. So it closed off in the end of March, just as I was traveling through Japan for our first ever family vacation. And so I closed off this book and instead used the time to move into a new Hobonichi planner. So bring back the big box. And the book that I actually moved into was a much more ambitious A5 size. This is known as the Hobonichi Cousin. So this book I actually purchased in Tokyo in Japan. And it's an April start as well, which meant that I got to finish off the smaller A6 baby book and then move into this A5 size book as a way for me to practice an all-in-one planner system. So I thought, rather than keeping a book only as my baby book, I'm also going to have the space in this larger book to journal about personal feelings, experiences, and reflections. I'm also going to be able to keep track of work and other things going on in my personal life, whether it be staying on top of my laundry, house fixtures, renovations, things like that. So I thought at the time that I would really love having everything kept in the one place and that it would be convenient and it would be all the different dimensions of my life all together in one handy place and in a book that I could carry around with me all through the rest of the year. However, if you watched my last video, one of the unexpected challenges of keeping this book is that almost right from the get-go, things felt really chaotic and disorganized, keeping everything in the one place. So I found that I was journaling about beautiful memories that I had with my family, but also then in the next page, maybe venting about a particularly stressful situation at work, all alongside keeping dental appointments and marking when I did laundry or watered my garden. And it meant that I didn't feel as excited about archiving this book because it was just sort of this jumbled mess of everything that was happening in my life. And I really respect people who can keep everything in the one book and celebrate the fact that their lives are bittersweet and up and down. But I don't know, for me, it was something where I just felt like there was a lot of things that I got out into this book that I vented and was very healing for me at the time. But then the emotional gunk that I left in this book is something that I would rather see recycled at the end of the year rather than something that I archive in my bookshelf and can look back on as a treasured selection of memories. So because that didn't quite work for me, I decided not to continue with the Hobonichi A5. And I'm only keeping this book through until the end of March, which as an April start is when this book is naturally going to end. So for the first 3 months of this year, I will be keeping up to date with personal journaling, venting, and using this space for very helpful personal reflections. But going into 2025, I'm going to experiment instead with almost swinging the pendulum all the way to the other side, right? So where 2024 was an experiment with an all-in-one system, in 2025, I'm going to experiment with compartmentalizing all the different dimensions of my life into their own separate notebooks. So I'll show you a little bit of what that looks like. So I missed keeping that baby book that I had in the first 3 months of 2024 so much that one of the first things that I did in my latest Hobonichi order is that I bought a new Techo original for 2025. When I saw this cover, I immediately knew that it would be the perfect design for my son's baby book, because if he loves any two things in the universe more than anything else, it would be dogs and buses. And I'm not kidding you, I think dog was his second ever word after duck. So this book, when I saw it, I just thought, I have to have this as a baby book. So setting aside, I've got here, I haven't started writing in this book yet, but in here I've kept the little artist card. Keiko Shibata is the artist who does these really sweet paintings in pastel. I've got a little set of stickers with a little boy that I picked up actually from Koala Tea Care. Joanne, who sells a lot of beautiful Japanese stickers on her Etsy store, and I'll have all of that linked below. And I've purchased these Mindwave stickers as well from Joanne of Koala Tea Care, of these little tigers that I'm going to keep in the bag. These are empty for now, but these are the Io Okumi A6 folders, and I love having at least one of these in the back of my Hobonichi planners, just in case through the year as, let's say we go to a really lovely bakery and we have a nice meal together, I might grab a sticker or a business card and I'll pop that ephemera into a folder in the back. And then when I'm sitting down, maybe at the end of the week to journal, I'll be able to quickly sort through the folders in order to stick those memories or jog my memory about what to write as well. So this is the book that I'm going to start keeping for my son through this year, and I'm really, really excited about going back into a book where I can put all my treasured family memories. All right. So in addition to the A6 Hobonichi Techo that I'm using as a baby book, I, for the first time, picked up Hobonichi Weeks. So Weeks is what Hobonichi call their really, really slim kind of pocket compact planners. And previously I thought that I wouldn't really enjoy this size, but over the last year I've seen so many planner YouTubers share the way that they've been using Hobonichi Weeks, and it opened up my imagination in terms of thinking about the ways in which I could use the Hobonichi Weeks in order to create those stricter boundaries between the different parts of my life that I really craved having when I kept an all-in-one system with my large Hobonichi A5 cousin. So I purchased 2 Hobonichi Weeks to use in 2025. The first of this is the Unsoro Bijutsukai Tanabata Decorations cover. I just really love the colors here of the beautiful turquoise and pink and apricots, and it gave me a sense of peace despite the busyness of this decoration. And so there was something poetic about that metaphor to use this as my work planner. So I work as a professor at a business school, and I need to juggle between my teaching, so my classes, my semester times, exams, and all the nitty-gritty deadlines that come with maintaining my subjects. I also work on several research projects, including multiple papers with different research teams. And also last year, I picked up a new leadership role in my faculty in which I'm helping to coordinate a particular research pillar in my faculty. So because of those different responsibilities and very diverse sets of tasks and requirements that come with those different responsibilities, I've decided that this year I'll trial using this compact Hobonichi Weeks to help me manage my work life. So I've got here the monthly spreads, which is where I'll keep track of key things like semester start dates, conference dates, travel, research, article deadlines, and all the other things that I need to keep track of at a bird's eye view. But it's the weekly pages where I am going to be doing most of my planning and organization. The beauty of the Hobonichi Weeks is that they start in the very kind of last few weeks of the previous year. So I've had a few weeks to play around and see if I like it. And it's too early to tell for now, but so far I feel like it's been fairly successful carving out a little bit of time to update these weekly spreads with any major deadlines, meetings, or events. And then I've drawn a line down here because the Hobonichi Weeks offers a little bit of flexibility. There's tiny little dots on this left-hand side page that allows you, if you wish, to split up these into columns that suit you. The way that I've decided to use this for now is I've decided to split it into 1/3 and 2/3. So the first third column are my events, my meetings, as I mentioned, but that gives me the other 2/3 of the column to write down my specific tasks for the day. And when they're done, I can mark them off with a little cross. This so far, I've actually found really helpful to just see at a glance what sort of tasks I need to get done in a week. And it also helps me see what's coming up, what I need to allow time for. And if I do find myself, let's say, having a particularly quiet and particularly productive Tuesday, I might choose to tick off some of the tasks that aren't due until Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, but it allows me to create just a little bit more space and expansion for the latter half of the week. Another thing that I began experimenting in December is using all this blank space on the right-hand side of the page to jot down my work priorities. And that is, I want to list maybe 1 or no more than 3 things that if I didn't do anything else, I would consider it a successful week if I only did those 3 things. And that I find really important as an academic or anyone who has a certain degree of autonomy and flexibility in their roles, in which it can be really tempting to fill up your days with busy work, to feel like, oh, well, let me just tidy up my lecture slides a little bit more. Or, you know what, I don't really think that case study worked very well last semester, so let me go and spend 6 hours reading 30 case studies and finding the best one. Or, oh, let me go and see if there are any new publications on this methodology or this literature. And then before you know it, 3 days have passed where you've done nothing but kind of aimlessly read. So I put down what my work priorities are so I can make sure that I'm actually using my time in the way that creates the most benefit, the most impact. So that's why every week I'll set my work priorities, and then towards the end of the week, I'll list my weekly wins. So I'll talk about what I'm proud about, what I learned, what challenges I overcame. And that to me is also really important. I'm quite senior in my role. I've been an academic for 12, 13 years now. And I'm an associate professor. And so I'm not at the start of my career where I'm still figuring out who I am and what kind of academic I want to be. But I'm at the stage of my career where it's very easy for me to take my accomplishments for granted and to forget how hard it was for me at the beginning to learn these skills, to develop this knowledge and wisdom. And so weekly wins is a way for me not to get into the academic hamster wheel of thinking, okay, great, I submitted an article. All right, what's next? Okay, I've got another project. I've got another grant application. All right, I'll get started on that. But to actually stop at the end of the week, to breathe and say, what have I achieved? And that includes really recognizing some of the things that used to be really hard for me, that used to be really tricky, confusing, overwhelming, that I was able to pull off in a short span of time, or perhaps, received a bit of recognition for, or positive feedback around, that I can stop and actually celebrate rather than, all right, on to the next tick box. I am on my research semester coming up, so I don't have to step into a classroom until May 2025, and I thought this is the perfect opportunity to ease gently into a work planner when I don't have a lot of tasks to juggle. So this is going to be over the next 5 months. I'm going to give myself the grace to experiment and to write things in the wrong places, to change up the layouts week by week, or maybe, say this week, I was pretty much wrapping up my work year, so I didn't have work priorities. So little things like that where I can, experiment and accept when things need to pivot and adapt and do things differently until it becomes a more established habit for the second half of the year, when my tasks and responsibilities do ramp up and I find, I really need to come back into this book in order to make sure I'm not completely forgetting my tasks, priorities, and obligations. The other Hobonichi Weeks I decided to pick up is this one with the Yumiki Tagishi beautiful wallpaper design. And just like all of her other covers and artwork, I find this absolutely stunning. I believe it is a painting that she did for a dollhouse wallpaper, and it's been adapted into a cover for this book. I got the idea to keep a special Hobonichi Weeks notebook, or to track my health and well-being, thanks to Alison from Little Coco Studio. Her channel, maybe more than anybody else's, has been a source of inspiration and a source of comfort for me over the last year. And in seeing how she generously details how she developed her Hobonichi Weeks system to track her health and well-being, how she has adapted, experimented within it, and how she continues to do so into the new year, has been an experience that has taught me a lot about the benefits of keeping such a book for myself. So in my 2025 experimentation with keeping multiple books rather than keeping an all-in-one system, I picked up this beautiful Hobonichi Weeks in order for me to cultivate care, rest, and joy in 2025. Before I open this book, I do want to warn you that I will track my meals, but I do not talk about weights, restrictive eating, or dieting in any way in this book. So in this book, I've got some very minimal stickers that I've decorated so far. Here, this is a little note to myself where I'm going to track my illnesses. And because we're very early on in January, I haven't had anything to track so far. One of the things that Alison taught me in her spreads and her explanations of how she uses her health and wellness tracker is really adapting it to your unique health and wellness needs. So, if somebody has a chronic illness, that might be something very important for them to track their fluctuating symptoms. But for me, it wouldn't make sense for me to track the particular illness that I don't have, or perhaps that doesn't have as strong of an impact on my life. So one of the things that I did was sort of sit down and tailor this to the unique health struggles that I have. And so this is a little bit personal, but I'm not too afraid to share with you that one of the things that I go through is I struggle on and off with sleep maintenance insomnia. So I don't typically have trouble falling asleep at the start of the night, but I have on and off in my life, and particularly after I became a new mum, when I was getting up 3 times through the night to breastfeed, was I developed very anxiety-based sleep maintenance insomnia, which means I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would not be able to fall back asleep, sometimes tossing and turning for 1, 2, or 3 hours. On really, really bad days, my insomnia really starts to compound with my anxiety. And what I find is that I might sleep for a little bit between 10 and 1, and when I wake up, I'm not able to fall back asleep again. Or sometimes I'll have nightmares and I'll keep waking up through the rest of the morning, on and off. So because of that, for me, tracking sleep is very important. I have, in the sort of last few months of this year, been practicing CBTI, and that's helped me a lot. And that's why keeping my health and wellness tracker, one of the things that I'll be keeping an eye on are things like negative thoughts around my sleep and anxiety around my sleep. And I'll be tracking that and tracking, when I need to get things back on track with some helpful CBTI practices. So unlike my work journal, where I've taken this left-hand side and I've chosen to just add one divider to split the columns into the first third and the second third, I've actually gone through using the little helpful markers that the Hobonichi Weeks provides, and I've split the left-hand side into 3 columns. I don't really need a lot of space. So in the first column, just like with my work planner, I'll keep details about personal events and appointments, particularly, if it might be doctor's appointments or psychology appointments. In the middle column, I will write what my priority is for my rest. So that might be spending quality time with my family or with my partner. It might be stealing a bit of me time that day to be alone, to recharge my social batteries, which is very important to me as an introvert. But it might be in certain weeks recognizing that I've been feeling a bit sore in my lower back, so I need to do more walking or introduce a walking habit into my daily life. So this gives me at a glance what my key care and health priority is for the day, and it also ensures that there's a good balance. So there's a good balance between seeing my friends and socializing and getting time to myself and time to be alone and be introspective. There's space where I'm balancing a lot of high activity and high exercise days with days for rest and recovery. The third column that I have here is a place where it's sort of fluctuated over the weeks, but I've been keeping track of my main emotions that day. So how I felt, if I felt anxious and overwhelmed and stressed, or if I felt peaceful, focused, grateful. So I keep a little bit of track of my moods, and the space allows me to get more nuanced than my mood tracker here on the right, which sort of I use to capture the key feeling. But here it allows me to go into a little bit more detail, like maybe I had a really joyous and peaceful morning, but in the evening, I had the Sunday scaries and I got really stressed thinking about all the tasks that I had to do come the Monday start to the work week. So that's where I'm able to track a lot of those. And I'm hoping that over time, it will allow me to notice patterns that can inform how I can change my lifestyle, my routines, or all my daily and weekly rituals in order to create more peace and balance. One of the experiments that I've tried doing is I've been tracking my meals. So over here, there's sort of a very thin gray line that helps almost create a bonus 4th column that's the same width as everything here on the left-hand side. So here it's very easy for me. I'll write at the start B for what I ate for breakfast, L for what I ate for lunch, D what I ate for dinner, and if there's space, I'll write S, and that's usually a snack that I've had in the day. I'm not particularly concerned about what I eat, but I was noticing that I wasn't making the sort of the smartest decisions, in that, like, I'm lactose intolerant, but I find it very difficult to say no to ice cream. And then, big surprise, I feel really bloated and uncomfortable the next day. So this was a way for me to track, like, where sometimes my discomfort was associated directly with choices that I was making in my eating. I'm also moving into my 40s this year, so I'm going to be turning 40 at the end of 2025. And I thought this was an opportunity where I can be more educated and informed about the sorts of foods that I could eat to promote an anti-inflammatory diet as I look forward to perimenopause. So making choices to eat more like blueberries, blackberries, especially now that they're in season, choosing to eat nuts instead of, maybe in the past when I would have the munchies in the afternoon, I would easily power down a whole pack of chips and then again feel sick the next day or feel sick that night and have trouble sleeping. And, I would wonder why. So this is one way in which I find that even the practice of knowing that I'm going to physically take pen to paper and write down what I ate inspires me to make more intentional decisions about what I choose to put in my body. So that's been something that I've been experimenting with. Now, there have been weeks where I haven't been able to dip into this journal, after 2-3 days, and I've forgotten what I ate. And that's okay. I'm letting myself have spaces for that. I also found that the habit tracker wasn't really working for me, in that I have a lot of habits that have, genuinely become habits, in the sense that they've become unintentional things that I can do effortlessly every single day. Just like I don't need to track that I brush my teeth, for example. So I've decided to, moving forward, to adapt my habit tracker only to track the kind of habits that either I want to start or the habits I want to re-establish. So, for example, this was the last week of December, and in 2024, I had a challenge for myself to read 100 books over the course of the year. One of the ways I'm able to achieve that is because as a mom, I do spend a lot of time putting my son down for his sleep, putting him down for a nap. And during that time, I'll literally lay in the dark next to him, patting him, stroking him. And during that time, I can put in headphones and listen to an audiobook. So that's one of the ways that I've been able to read 100 books. And at the end of December, I'm very happy to say that I finished ahead of schedule, and on Boxing Day, I finished my 100th book of the year, The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. And that meant that I gave myself the rest of the year, right, all 5 days off from reading. So you'll see here, I read every single day, but then didn't read for the rest of the week. So now I need to re-establish reading as a habit for the start of the year. So we'll see how that goes. It's a little bit shaky. I forgot to read yesterday, but I read today. So that's why I'm starting to track reading again. It's also been really, really hot and humid here where I am in southeast Queensland in Australia. And so I haven't always been able to walk. Either that, yes, indeed it's too hot, or we're having a lot of thunderstorms as we do in summer. So I've also started tracking when I've actually physically gotten out and walked, not just did a yoga routine, not do other kinds of exercise, but really specifically to go outdoors, to have time in nature where I can take that space to stretch my legs and to exercise my muscles. So that's one thing that I've been playing with on the right-hand column. So I'm really looking forward to experimenting with these new journals. And I know that I've really swung the pendulum the other way from keeping one, all-in-one system in this Hobonichi A5 cousin to now moving into essentially I'll be keeping 4 planners in 2025. This one for the first 3 months before this book finishes, but then also the A6 sized baby book where I'll track family memories, a work planner, and a health and wellness personal planner. I am ready to accept that this might be too much. It's certainly not very kind on my wallet. But that being said, I really relish this opportunity to experiment with a new system. Swinging the other way allows me to figure out, okay, how exactly is it overwhelming? What do I find I reach for? And what do I find I drop? And that will give me really invaluable insights into what are the most important planners for me to achieve a sense of organization, balance, and peace through 2026. And I recognize that throughout different seasons of my life, it might change. One of the things I mentioned in my last video was that when I first started using this all-in-one book, I wasn't used to physically writing so many words in a day, right? So this is a daily journal where, in addition to keeping the monthly and weekly spreads, there is a lot of space where I need to journal about what's going on and to stay on track. And this was very difficult to keep up with alongside my full-time job, alongside having a family, until I developed the habit of carving out 45 minutes to 1 hour every day, or at least every work day, where I'm able to dip into this and catch up in my spreads. Over time, my stamina improved, so my hands no longer cramped up writing this many words, but it also became more effortless. It became more routinized. And so I found that I was able to keep up with this book more efficiently than I was at the start of April when I began this planner. So now I recognize that just because things feel hard in the beginning doesn't mean that the system is a failure and that it would never work. So in 2025, I recognize that this is possible if I set aside that time during my work day. For me, it's usually at the start of the day, where before I begin work at 9, I'll bring down a cup of tea at 8 a.m. and I'll give myself 1 hour to keep up to date in my books. And it's so wonderful in terms of me spelling out, reflecting on my intentions, my goals, my tasks, my duties, and then beginning my workday at 9 o'clock with this renewed sense of focus and motivation every day. So it's actually helped me be more efficient. It hasn't been something where I've had to expend an hour, but something that I feel like I've earned an hour back because my work becomes more intentional and more meaningful for the rest of the day when I've taken the hour to do this. Now, in addition to these 4 books, which I will be keeping every day, I also have occasional journals that are for my special hobbies. Now, I introduced these in my last video as well, so I'll just very quickly cover them. This is my traveler's notebook in the Tokyo Station exclusive design. And the first part of it is where I use this blank notebook as a very minimalist travel notebook. I don't journal about what I got up to in the day because, honestly, I have enough other journals to write about all of that. But this is where I'll just put up a couple of pictures printed off from my Instax camera, and I might tear out stamps or really pretty pictures from brochures, little washi tapes that I bought in order to jog my memory. So this might not mean anything to anyone else, but I can open this up and remember seeing that butterfly in the morning when we stepped out into the garden in the Japanese springtime. I can remember when I visited that store and what I purchased, what we saw. All of these little things are meaningful for me and my family, and that's why this book is such a joy for me to keep, and it's very easy and quick to do so. So I've only used a few pages in this insert, and that leaves me with plenty of blank pages in order to fill it up with my next family vacation. And only as of few days ago, I've booked our tickets for a family vacation in the United States in April. So it will be my first time in the US, unless you count a layover at San Francisco airport for 8 hours, which I don't. That was on my way to Canada once. So this time I'll actually have the opportunity to properly leave the airport and see more of the beautiful country. In my last video, I shared an empty sticker release paper insert, but I'm happy to say that I have spent a little bit of time sticking in some of the stickers that I've kept so that they're not kind of kept loose and falling out all over the place. This is from a sticker sheet that I received when I went to Japan and we flew ANA, and they gifted us with this little sticker sheet, which I think has a really beautiful art style. And this comes from a Alice in Wonderland themed sticker sheet that I bought while I was in Japan. I actually found it surprisingly calming to do this. It was like a really satisfying activity. I think I was listening to an audiobook at the time. And so I definitely think that it will take me no time to set aside a few minutes and fill out the rest of this sticker release book with all of my other loose stickers that are flying around everywhere. Also, throughout the year, if I can find the time, I've got my commonplace book in this dotted insert. And this is where I usually keep memorable quotes, learnings, and insights from the books that I've read. So this is something that I don't really feel the pressure to fill up. I'm really excited about keeping a YouTube channel, but I'm also not too worried about, giving myself the pressure that, I have to fill up these beautifully perfect, decorated, neat pages with not a single mistake so that I could show my followers. Look, I'm really happy to show you like journals that aren't touched for months, even years. And I just know that this is there waiting for me. There's no pressure to make this museum worthy, but where I have the time and where I feel like it will give me that little bit of joy at the end of a busy work week, I'll be able to dip into this as I see fit. And then the last little special interest book that I wanted to share with you is this Fabriano Venezia notebook. It's a sketchbook that I ordered, and it's the one that's roughly in an A5 size, although I think it's a little bit thinner. There we go. That's the dimensions of the book that I purchased. And what I'm using this for is I've actually joined an art journaling course called Wanderlust. And that's my little treat for myself to introduce more art and creativity into my daily life. And so starting from this year, we're going to get weekly online video lessons from different guest artists. And we're going to have the opportunity to use the pages of this art journal in order to experiment with the techniques and the styles that each teacher teaches. And so I've decided to decorate the page with this little kind of mixed media collage, honestly just testing out like the gesso that I bought, testing out a glue that I bought, and bringing in a little intention into my art for next year. Decolonize, of course, I think that should be my intention every single year. I am really not much of an artist, but one of the things that means a lot to me is I actually have had a dream that I've kept for the last 2 years of creating a sticker business. And because art isn't really my forte, I've decided that I will do more art throughout the year to develop up my skills and my techniques in order to get my skills up to a point where I feel more satisfied drawing little pictures that I can then turn into die-cut stickers or sticker sheets. And so this is the very, very gentle baby step onto that lifelong dream of having a little sticker shop. I'm very excited to find time to do this. So yes, it is a lot, but I've learned anything from 2025, then it is that I can make the space and make the time for whatever is a priority for me. And it might mean spending more time writing in these books means that I have to set firmer boundaries at work. It means maybe I can't say yes to as many projects, that I can't take as much on, and I can't volunteer for as many duties as maybe I used to, because I want to strike a greater balance between my rest and my work. It might mean that I will have days where I need my partner to take my son out to the playground for them to get one-on-one bonding time so that I can have 2 hours in my home office in a quiet afternoon to spend time on myself, to pour back into my cups so that I could be, a better mother and a better partner to my family. I am really, really excited about what 2025 holds. And I'm especially excited about capturing a lot of my experiences and reflections on camera to share with all of you. And it means so much to me that you're here and that you're taking the time to tune in to these videos, bearing with me learning and figuring out the whole YouTube system, and also taking a chance on spending time with me and subscribing and following everything that I choose to share. So thank you for your encouragement and your support. Next week, I plan to share a video of my 2024 stationery favorites and also reflect a little bit on intentional consumption and what it means for me to be part of a community that often focuses a lot on physical products, but how I try to balance between buying all the amazing stationery goodies that I fall in love with in these videos, but in a way that brings real intentional joy into my life. Thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe so you can follow along with my next videos, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take good care and Happy New Year.